Hi, this is Matt with State of Flux, here with the middlemost movie in the Godzilla pantheon. This is Godzilla vs. Biollante. This is one that I have an interesting relationship because when I first saw it, I was not a fan of this movie. This was the sort of last Godzilla movie I saw until the American one came out, and I had to go to 3 different video stores back in the day to rent it. I had to find a Mr. Effing Movies to find this VHS, and I saw it and I didn't really like it. But that was my kid self. I was like 5 at the time, coming back to it many years later, I had a friend who was way into Godzilla that got me to rewatch this movie about 10 years ago for the first time, and I was blown away. And rewatching it just this past week, this is definitely my second favorite Godzilla movie, or my favorite Godzilla sequel overall. It is exceptionally well written. It has a vibrant energy to it. Half of this movie is sort of like a crime thriller kind of thing, in the vein of like a John Woo picture, which would have been very relevant at the time that this came out. Especially like that opening scene is very reminiscent of something you'd get out of A Better Tomorrow, A Hard Boiled, or even James Cameron's Terminator, which all of these would have been relevant recent pictures back when this film came out. But the film that I would closely, or film or book rather, that I would most closely relate Godzilla vs. Biollante to is Parasite Eve. If you've not read the book Parasite Eve, if you're only familiar with the video game, it was based on a novel. And I believe both novel and the feature film that was made in, I want to say, 1997, which is an excellent film. Seek it out if you get a chance to. Has so much in common with the plot of this movie. I have to wonder if this movie was somehow the inspiration to that story. You see, in the Godzilla vs. Biollante, you have a scientist who lost his daughter and has a connection to this rose, this plant, and sees these cells that Godzilla left behind in Godzilla, or The Return of Godzilla, or Godzilla 1984, or Godzilla 1985, however you saw that picture. During the fierce battle with Godzilla, cells of his were left behind. So the scientist utilizes these cells to try and, in a way, bring back the essence of his daughter, and in turn creates this weird plant monster. It's part rose, it's part Godzilla, and it is very much reminiscent of the spirit of this man's daughter. The human storyline in this is incredibly strong. The action set pieces, even though, and this is why I think I didn't really respond to it very well when I was young. I didn't care about the action shoot-'em-up espionage kind of thriller stuff. I was there for Godzilla battles. There's not much of that in that movie, but when it happens, it is so good. This is easily the best utilization of Godzilla monster battle or Godzilla versus army battles that we have gotten in any of the movies to this point. It is so well written, so well drawn, and the concept and utilization of Biollante is so unique and so interesting. It gives a very interesting and different dynamic to the fights that Godzilla traditionally has, and that's something that I really responded well to. That's also why, like, Godzilla versus the Smog Monster, or Godzilla versus Hedorah, is because he had a more interesting relationship with that monster. It wasn't the traditional Toho monster fight. You got something a little more unique. This gives you that as well, plus all the cool, like, Terminator, Better Tomorrow action beats as well, and a pretty solid, emotionally resonant story with the human side of things. This is Godzilla at his best. And this is an unfortunate one because you could see there's money put on the screen here. This is great. However, the audience didn't find this movie at the time. I think this is very much a movie that people came to down the road, kind of like myself, because it is more offbeat for a Godzilla movie. It is different. It has a uniqueness to it that a lot of the other ones don't, and I think that was alienating to the audience at the time. Now it's a refreshing beat. That said, it's because of this movie that that Toho, with their Heisei versus series, kind of went down the old familiar road. I like that this was a new monster, and it would be many movies later before we got anything new again. But after this movie and the people's response to it, the studio heads decided, let's redirect our attention to something that people are a little more familiar with, which is why the next film is Godzilla versus King Ghidorah. And that's a movie I've never seen, so I'm curious to see how I respond to that. But the Heisei series kicks off with Godzilla's best installment since 1954. Check out Godzilla Biollante. If you were like me and dismissed it as a wee lad, come back to this movie. It is so good. You will be engaged front to back, I promise you. It's an excellent film, 4-star film, the best Godzilla sequel that I can say with confidence that's a sequel. We'll touch on this again later. But thanks for watching, like, subscribe, let me know what you thought of this movie in the comments down below. Peace.